Good morning, Year 5. Welcome to our Day. Today we are doing our theme on understanding rules for living, and because it is Judaism that we're studying, we are understanding the Jewish rules for living, and we will be covering the Sabbath, or the Shabbat as it is also known as. Today is Thursday, the 11th of February 2021. So the first thing we'll always do is a quick review on our last topic that we discussed, which was Christianity's rules for living, and then a bit about last year as well when you learnt about Anne Frank. So you have the do now in your home learning sheet, which you can print off if you like, or you can just write the answers into your book. So here is the do now. If you haven't got it printed off, you can just stay here and pause the video and complete that. Then you may unpause again once you have completed and you're ready to mark your work before uploading to CISO. So pause the video here and we'll go through the answers in a moment. Okay, well done. So, who wrote the 10 Commandments? Well, it was Moses. And he was on Mount Sinai. Okay, so tick or fix those two. True or false? The 10 Commandments are also known as the Decalogue. That is true. So that was our last unit, which was rules for living in Christianity. Then last year you discovered the life of Anne Frank and discussed how her life changed while living in Nazi Germany. But where was she born? She was born in Germany. And number 5, who blamed the Jews for a lot of things that were wrong in the country, that is referring to Germany, at the time? It was the Nazis. Okay? Well done if you got all 5 correct. If not, not to worry, make sure you tick or fix and learn from your error, and then make sure you upload to CISO so we can see all your fantastic do-nows. Okay, so let's get going with today's lesson. So our theme is rules for living, and we're looking at rules for living in Judaism. Now we have to do a quick recap on what our theme actually means and what rules for living actually are across the different religions that we studied so far this year. So firstly, what are rules for living? Well, rules for living are a set of guidelines or instructions to help people make the right choices in their lives in line with the religion they follow. So we've looked at Christianity, and we have looked at Hinduism, and we are looking at now Judaism and the rules for living there and how they differ from different religions. Rules for living usually involve making the correct personal choices such as respect, kindness and generosity, and those 3 attributes of people would really cross over across most religions. And finally, they may also involve religious rules too, when to pray and where to pray. So it's about being a good person according to your religion, as well as faith and when you should pray, where you should pray and how often. Okay, so let's do a quick recap now, looking at the Hindu rules for living. Dharma was the Hindu rule for living, which was a complex idea, which means complicated, that includes the right behaviour, following moral law, and not just what you feel like doing, as well as taking one's duties seriously. So we discovered that the Hindu rules for living was a complex idea based around dharma, or truth, that included doing what was right, not just what you felt like doing, and then taking these duties very responsibly. So some of the duties that were included in dharma were honesty, not injuring living beings, so including animals and people, purity of mind, speech and body, that means keeping your body pure, your speech pure, so not swearing, and your mind free of thoughts that are not right. Goodwill, being kind to others, mercy, showing forgiveness, patience, you know what patient means, forbearance, which would mean restraint and tolerance. So across the RE curriculum in Ark Franklin, we are teaching about tolerance and being tolerant of different religions and different beliefs, and you would have seen that mentioned as well in your introduction this morning in that video. Self-restraint, so not doing what you want to do, but doing what is right. Generosity, so being kind to others, and asceticism, which is self-discipline, which is quite similar to self-restraint. So they were the Hindu rules for living, which were based around dharma, doing what's right and not just doing what you felt like doing. Then around Christmas, we did Christianity, and Christianity was slightly more straightforward in terms of you had 10 commandments, you had 10 rules to follow, which Jesus did narrow down into 2, but the 10 commandments that Moses got on Mount Sinai was about you shall have no other gods but me, so Christians believe in only one God. You shall not make yourself any idol, nor bow down to it or worship it. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, so that means that you don't swear. You should remember to keep the Sabbath day holy. Now that's interesting. So we're learning about the Sabbath today in Judaism, and it also features in the Ten Commandments in Christianity. We will come back to that shortly, just keep that in the back of your mind. Respect your mother and father, so that means respect those that are older than you. You must not commit murder, you must not commit adultery, you must not steal, so you must not do what is wrong. And you must not give false evidence against your neighbour. So that means that you must be kind to your neighbour, you're not to do something that will go against them. And as well, you must not be envious of your neighbour's goods. You should not be envious of his house, his wife, nor anything that belongs to your neighbour. And neighbour doesn't literally refer to your next door neighbour, next to your house. It means those around you in your community. So, 10 rules for living for Christians to follow, the 10 Commandments. Dharma was the set of rules for Hinduism, and we discussed lots of similarities and differences between those two in our last RE day. So we have 2 sets of rules for living done this year. We're now going to look at the Sabbath or the Shabbat in Judaism, and then compare at the end Christian rules for living with Hindu rules for living alongside Jewish rules for living. Okay, so just keep those at the back of your mind as we move forward. So our theme today again is rules for living in Judaism and looking at the Sabbath. Before we get into studying the Sabbath in detail, there's just 4 questions here that I'd like you to answer in your head. You don't need to write it down, I just want you to think about what's your favourite day of the week, why? Is it important to have a day of rest from work or school, and why? What does day of rest mean to you? So what would you do resting? And what would you do not do on a day of rest, and why? So just pause the video here, think about those 4 questions, as that will really lead into our lesson in the next few minutes. Unpause then once you've discussed all 4 and thought about what they mean to you. Okay, so what's your favourite day of the week? I assume a lot of you would probably have picked the likes of Friday, Saturday or Sunday around the weekend. And why? Probably because you get to see family and you get to have a rest. And then is it important to have a day of rest from work or school? I think it is, because you've worked hard all week and you deserve a break. You deserve to. 3 and 4 are quite personal to you, but they're all very personal to you, and we all have different answers for those 4 questions. So again, keep those in the back of your mind as we now learn about the Sabbath. So what is the Sabbath? Well, the Sabbath is the Jewish people's holy day. It is their holy day, set aside for rest and worship. So the Sabbath is a holy day in Judaism, set aside to take a rest and to worship. Okay, that means to pray to their God. It begins at sunset on Friday. So when the sun sets on Friday, that's when the Sabbath begins, that's when the rest begins, and it finishes when the sun sets on Saturday. So it is one whole day, from Friday evening until Saturday evening, 24 hours based around when the sun sets, and that is the day of rest. Sabbath literally means rest. Okay, the Shabbat literally means rest. Sabbath means rest. So in Judaism, rest, the rest day, is really, really important. Now, where does this idea of day of rest stem from? Well, it stems from the creation story that is in the Bible in Genesis. And we're going to read it now to understand where the Sabbath came from and the idea of day of rest. So, we're going to read this together. I'll read it for you and you follow along and understand what we are talking about as we go. So in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. When there had been nothing, now there was something, unformed and empty, spinning in the darkness. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God divided the light from the darkness and called the light day. And in the darkness he called night. A capital H there, you just notice, refers to God. There was evening and there was morning, and that made one whole day, the first day. Okay, so on the first day the world was created, according to the Bible, God made night and day. So he worked the first day and made night and day. Okay, let's continue. And God separated the waters of the earth from the waters of the sky, and he made the heavens. There was evening, and there was morning, and that was the second day. So on the second day that he worked, he made evening and morning, and separated waters of the earth from waters of the sky. So he's worked 2 days. And God made the earth, and he gathered the water into the seas. And he told the dry new land to bring forth grass and trees, fruit and seeds, the third day. So God has worked for 3 days, creating the earth according to this story. And God made the stars to guide the way and to show the seasons, to give light to the earth. Then he made the sun to rule over the day, and the moon to rule over the night. There was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. So he created the sun and the moon to take over the night and the day. So he's worked for 4 days. So you can see down here from the image, on the first day God created light. On the second day God separated the waters from the earth and sky. On the third day God made the seeds, the land, and all of the plants. Okay, so he's now worked for 4 days of where we're at in this story of the Bible. Then God said, "Let the waters swarm with life, and the heavens fill with life." He made the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky. There was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. So on the fifth day he added life to the water, and the heavens filled with life. So he added the birds and the sea onto earth. And God made all the animals of the earth, and he created man in his own image to rule over the fish and the fowl and every living thing. There was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. So on the sixth day God created people. The heavens and the earth were finished, and all of God's creations were done, ready to spin into the world we know. God saw that it was good, and the seventh day was blessed by God, and for that day he rested from the work he had done. So I will revise that in a second, but we'll just recap what he did on the fourth day. He created the stars, the sun, and the moon. On the fifth day, he made all the creatures of the sky and the sea. And then finally, on the sixth day, God made people and animals to live on his beautiful earth. Then, on the seventh day, he rested from the work. So he worked for 6 days and rested on the seventh. Now you're probably thinking in your head that the week starts on Monday. However, some people believe that the week starts on Sunday. So in Judaism, the sixth day would happen on Friday, which means they take Saturday as the Sabbath, as their day of rest. Okay, so following the story of creation, that is how the Sabbath has come about, and that how Sabbath, Friday evening to Saturday evening, is the Jewish people's holy day, where they set aside rest and worship as they work for 6 days, as God worked for 6 days, and then he rested on the seventh day. They will rest on the seventh day, which stems from Friday evening to Saturday evening. So that's where the Sabbath came from. We're now going to go into what actually happens on the Sabbath, what actually happens on this day. So every week, Jews celebrate something which happened a very long time ago, the beginning of the whole universe, as we've just read. Jews believe that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, and that day is called the Sabbath. So these 2 points here summarize the creation story that we just read. That story that we read from the Bible of Genesis is called the creation, okay, when earth was created. Now, as I mentioned earlier, one of the commandments, the 10 commandments in Christianity, has something to do with the Sabbath. Can you remember what it was? Can you remember who was given the 10 commandments? Yeah, remember Moses was given the 10 commandments on Mount Sinai, and the commandment that had something to do with the 10 commandments was the commandment that had something to do with the Sabbath was remember to keep the Sabbath day holy. Okay, that means you keep the day of rest holy for worship and rest. Okay, it happens in Christianity, mainly on a Sunday when people would go and pray and take rest, whereas in Judaism it happens on the Saturday, which was their Sabbath, okay, their day of rest. Okay, and then we can see it again, one of the 10 commandments, the fourth one, you shall remember to keep the Sabbath day holy. Okay, in Christianity it's also important to keep your day of rest holy. You keep Sunday holy in Christianity, you keep Friday evening to Saturday evening for worship and rest in Judaism. Okay, there's a similarity between the two. Okay, so what happens on the Sabbath? Well, family get together. Spending time with family is really important in Judaism and following the rules for living of Judaism. Family is crucial, they get together. It begins on Friday evening and ends on Saturday night. So it could be with friends, if you consider them family, it could be with relatives, it could be with your immediate family. It depends on everybody's situation, but family is really, really important in Judaism and in celebrating the Sabbath every week. 3 special meals are eaten, one on Friday evening at the beginning of the Sabbath, Saturday afternoon, and then just before the end of the Sabbath would be just before sunset on Saturday evening. Your best clothes are worn, so it is basically a complete break from their normal daily lives. You have 6 days of the week which are busy and which are full of routine, and then on the Sabbath you take a rest, you eat 3 meals, and you wear your best clothes. However, to eat those 3 meals, all the hard work has to be done before Friday evening. So you cannot work at all on the Sabbath. You cannot cook on the Sabbath, you cannot clean on the Sabbath. All the hard work has to be done before the Sabbath begins. So the house must be clean and tidy, and everybody does something. So everybody contributes to preparing for the Sabbath. The cooking would all be prepared before Friday evening, the house would be cleaned, the washing would be done, all ready to go with your best clothes, with the nice food, and a clean house ready to welcome family. Okay, like I said, the Sabbath meals must be ready, the table must be laid with flowers beforehand, they use their best plates and glasses, which will be laid out, and even the candlesticks have to be put out on the table. So you cannot even set the table on the Sabbath, okay? You are not doing anything that involves work. The table is laid, the flowers are out, the plates and glasses are out, and the meals are prepared in advance. Okay, so that is what happens on the Sabbath. I also have a couple of videos attached to the home learning document, which I'd strongly advise you watching, especially before the Independent. I'll remind you of that again very shortly. But before we go to that, we're going to look at some of the symbols of the Sabbath. So as we know, each religion would have different symbols which mean different things. A symbol is a sign which has meaning behind it, and the Sabbath and Judaism is no different. So we're going to look at some of the symbols of the Sabbath that appear each week for Jewish people. So as I mentioned a minute ago, candles are put on the table beforehand. Candlelight symbolises peace coming into the home when it is lit on Friday evening as the Sabbath starts. So you have candles burning for the Sabbath on the table, and it symbolises peace coming into that home. And peace is something that probably everybody craves, that everybody wants, and candlelight symbolises peace in the Sabbath in Judaism. So that's one symbol, which is candles. Okay, this word I'm going to say first, and then you're going to repeat after me so that you pronounce it correctly. Challah. My turn, challah. Your turn. Okay, very good. So challah is a Jewish bread that is blessed. So meals begin with a blessing over 2 loaves of bread. So you can see in the background here pictures of the challah bread alongside the candles. 2 loaves of bread which are blessed, and it is symbolic of the manna God that gave the Jewish people in the desert after their escape from Egypt. Okay, so that is a story that Jewish people believe in, and the bread symbolises this escape from Egypt for Jewish people. The bread is blessed and it is eaten with the meal. Okay, it's actually a pity, because if we were in school we would have actually tried this bread, which we did with last year's year 5s, and they really enjoyed getting to try the bread. Unfortunately we're just at home this year, but maybe when you get back we might have the opportunity to do it. Okay, so symbols, challah, which is the bread, and blessed, and then the candlelight, which symbolises peace. Okay, continuing with challah, it is a special bread in Jewish cuisine. It's usually braided, so girls, we're braiding your hair when it kind of goes into loops or crossed over. So the bread is braided, it's crossed over here, you can see the crisscrosses. And it is eaten on ceremonial occasions such as the Shabbat or the Sabbath, as we're learning, and major Jewish holidays. So it's not just eaten on the Sabbath, it is eaten on other major Jewish holidays. Ritually, it is acceptable that the challah is made of dough, from which a small portion has been set aside as an offering. Okay, so it's been set aside as an offering. That is where it has its it has its religious meaning. Okay, so the bread is blessed. Small bit of the dough is set aside. It's made from the dough. It's braided. It's eaten on the Sabbath, and it is also eaten on other Jewish holidays alongside their meals. So, of course, the Sabbath is a day of rest with families, so you have to enjoy the Sabbath. Okay, so how do Jewish people enjoy the Sabbath? Well, they have activities such as eating, singing, and spending time with the family. It's about spending time with loved ones. It's not about sitting in front of the TV. It's not about going out in the garden and cutting the grass or cutting the hedges. It's not about that. It's about spending time with family, involving eating, singing, and spending time with loved ones. Also, to enjoy the Sabbath, you refrain from unpleasant conversation. If refrain, my turn, refrain, your turn. So refraining means to not do something or to stay away from doing something. Okay, so you stay away from unpleasant conversation. You do not talk about unpleasant things, such as dealing with money, business, and cooking. Okay, dealing with money is for the rest of the week when you're working. Business is about work, and cooking all involves work. The Sabbath is a day of rest. You do not talk about business, money, or cooking, or anything that involves work. So, at this point of the lesson, you can see that the Sabbath affects a Jew's life in a very significant way, or in a very important way. It is the one day when they are not allowed to do many normal daily activities. Okay, they're not allowed to do any work. They shouldn't be driving cars. Yes, they can go for a walk. They shouldn't be driving a car. They shouldn't be cooking. They shouldn't be cleaning. Not even setting the table. Okay, not gardening. Nothing that involves work. It's all about rest and spending time with family. So you can really see that it's one day where they're not allowed to do these normal activities, and it does affect a Jew's life in a significant way because this day is kept for worship and rest. So how does the Sabbath affect a Jew's life? I forgot to put my question mark in, which I will do now. Okay. So we spoke about the rest element and spending time with family, which is so important in Judaism. But now we must just talk about worship. So they must try to attend the synagogue at least once on this day. So synagogue is a place of worship in Judaism. They must try to attend the synagogue at least once on the Sabbath. If they are busy the whole week, then on this day they get to spend time with their families and eat family meals every week. So it's once a week, set aside once a week, which you may think of quite often, to spend time with family if they've not got the opportunity throughout the week if they are too busy. Also really important to get to the synagogue at least once, if not more, on the Sabbath day. The whole day of the Sabbath reflects the beginning of the world, when God made the earth and rest on the seventh day. Okay, so I said at the start of the lesson when I read the creation story that the Sabbath reflects this. When God worked for 6 days, Jewish people believe they work for 6 days and they rest on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, as God rested on his seventh day after creating earth for the previous 6 days. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I have included these two links on your home learning document, which I would really encourage you to watch, as it summarizes everything I've said, and you can see the Sabbath in action from a young Jewish boy's perspective. Okay, so he explains the Sabbath and he brings you into his home. So I really would encourage you to watch this before undertaking the independent. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is pause the video here, watch these two videos, as it will really prepare you for the independent task which is coming up. Okay, great. Hopefully you've watched those videos and we're ready to have a look at the independent. Okay, so let's have a look at the independent task. I will model it with you and explain it quite clearly so you'll be able to do it independently very shortly. Now, one thing I must say is that the lesson does not end after the independent task. You must unpause the video and continue watching to the end, as there are a couple of more things we must cover. So our independent task is, you're going to look at the activities. I will show you these activities in a moment. And then based on those, what things do you think a Jewish person could and could not do on the Sabbath? So I have given plenty of examples of what Jewish people can and cannot do on the Sabbath. You have watched 2 videos. If you have not watched them, I really encourage you to watch them now, as they explain what you can and cannot do on the Sabbath as well. And then you would fill in the columns on your sheet. So let me show this to you so you can understand it better. So these are the activities that you're going to see on your sheet. Things like handling money, going without food, knitting a sweater, playing the piano, playing board games, cooking, dancing, going for a walk. All different activities. You can do some on the Sabbath, but you cannot do others. Now this is on your sheet and it is attached in your home learning document. So let's have a look at it together. So this is the exact sheet that you have. If you do not have a printer, it's very, very easy for you just to draw out the box down here and you'll be able to fill it in very easily. So you do not need to print whatsoever. Okay, so I have my different categories here. I have, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, and I have 18 categories. Now, I have made a mistake, so I'm going to warn you now. Down here, there are not enough boxes, so you might have to add an extra 3 at the end, okay? I'm giving you a clue there. I've made a mistake. You will need to add an extra 3 on this side of the sheet, okay? I apologize for that error. I've just realized it. Okay, anyway, that aside, no big deal. We can easily fix that. Okay, let's start. I'm going to tick them off as I go. So I'm going to do 1 or 2 for you, then you're going to do the rest yourself. Okay, number 1 is handling money. Now, as we discussed, they're not there to refrain or to avoid talking about things like money, business and cooking. Okay, so handling money. If you're not supposed to talk about money, should you handle money? Probably not. So you cannot, on the Sabbath, handle money. Okay, so I'll write that down in this box. Handle money, no go. So tick that off, done. Okay, let's look at help someone in need. I'll go down this way. Okay, if you're spending time with family and you're following rules for living, which involve not just worship but also doing the right thing, helping someone in need is probably something you can do on the Sabbath, as it is showing and displaying the right morals for your religion. So can do on the Sabbath. You can help someone in need. Okay, so I've done 2 for you. It is your job now to do the remaining 16. Remember, you might want to add an extra 3 boxes down here at the end. There's a clue of what you need to do, and then go away, tick them off as you go. Once you've unpaused the video, I will reveal the answers. So this is your independent task. Pause the video here and I will reveal the answers once you've unpaused. Okay, so let's have a look at the answers. So what you can do on the Sabbath is you can help someone in need. Of course, you can laugh, you can sing, you can play the piano, you can go for a walk, you can dance, and you can read a newspaper. What you cannot do on the Sabbath, you cannot handle money, you cannot go without food, because a lot of that celebration is based around 3 meals. You cannot plait hair, okay, because all that work, looking your best in your best clothes, should have been done beforehand. I mentioned you cannot drive a car, you cannot bake because there's no cooking involved, you cannot knit because that is seen as work, you cannot smoke, you cannot cook, you cannot watch television, and you cannot do the gardening. Okay, so hopefully you got most of them. A couple of them are pretty tricky, but if you did watch the video from earlier, it will help you a lot. So if you want to pause the video here and to tick or fix these ones, please do, and then you can upload it to Seesaw later on, which I look forward to seeing. Okay, the final thing we're going to do, or 2 things we're going to do, we're going to quickly look at how does Judaism, its rules for living, link with Hinduism and link with Christianity. So again, you do not need to write anything down. The only thing you've had to write down today is your do now and your independent work, and you can do a quiz later on, give you the option whether to write that down or not. Right now you do not need to write anything down, but you need to think about how does the Sabbath and Jewish rules for living differ from other religions' rules for living, Hinduism and Christianity. So we've done Hinduism and Christianity in the past, the rules for living. We've now done the Sabbath and the Jewish rules for living. What is the same and what is different between Judaism, Hinduism and Christianity rules for living? Now you do not need to write anything down, but what would be really lovely is if you could record yourself discussing some of these themes and discussing similarities and differences between other religions we've studied. So I'm going to let you pause the video here. You may think about it, or as I said, it'd be really nice to see a recording of what you think, as that is something we really are missing, is our lovely class discussions around religion. But fear not, we will do it in our briefings. Okay, so you're going to pause the video here and complete that linkage with other religions. Or you can write them down. It is up to you, or even better, you can record a video yourself on Seesaw once again. So if you want to write them down, that's fine, but you need to pause the video here, complete the 5 questions to review Judaism's rules for living, which is the Sabbath, then unpause just to check how you've done today. Okay, so pause the video here and unpause when you're ready to go through the answers. So, the quiz. Number 1, what is the name of the Holy Week in Judaism? I should say holy day. And it is the Sabbath. So well done if you got that correct. The holy day in Judaism is the Sabbath. What story is the Sabbath based on? It was based on the creation story. What does the Sabbath mean? It literally means a day of rest. When does the Sabbath begin? It begins on Friday evening at sunset. And finally, true or false, the Sabbath appears as one of the 10 commandments. That is true, as we discussed earlier. Okay, so well done. It was a long lesson. The work you need to have up on Seesaw is your do now and your independent sheet, or which you completed in your book. Also, any videos of yourself discussing this religion, how it links with other religions that we've covered, that would be absolutely fantastic. You also need to be prepared to discuss in your briefings what you've learned and what you think about Jewish rules for living and how they compare with other religions. Okay, lots of content there. Well done for completing the quiz at the end. Well done for completing your independent. All us teachers look forward to seeing that on Seesaw later on. Have a lovely RE day, and we will talk to you very soon. Okay, bye.